Welcome everybody, I'm Santiago Kneeland and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. Today we're going to talk about reframing religion. We're diving into a topic that touches every layer of the human experience, reframing religion, community, and the art of truly living a spiritual life. Religion wasn't meant to sit in books or rituals, it was meant to move, to serve, to transform. At its core, true religion is a life, a daily experience with connection, compassion, and the divine presence within each of us. I am honored to explore this with Helen, a lifelong teacher, healer, and creative visionary with more than 30 years of experience as an art of living consultant. She is a service collaborator in the truest sense, walking with individuals and organizations towards deeper purpose, connection, and an embodied presence. Together we'll explore what it really means to live spiritually, in community and service, and in the simple, sacred rhythms of everyday life. So welcome, sister. It's always a pleasure having you here.
My pleasure. Aloha, brother, and all of you out there that we share this space with. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. And well, we're going to be talking about continuance of our prior conversation where we were redefining religion. And now we want to, the intention here is to really take it a step forward because a lot of people were asking, what is it beyond just that personal connection with God? How can I live my religion in an active way, So let's start with this first segment, which is reframing religion and community. So religion isn't just belief, it's action. In this segment, we explore how true religion becomes a living force, inspiring service, building community, and awakening a universal sense of belonging. What if religion wasn't something you practiced, but something you became? So what can you tell us about this, sister, and how you live this?
Yes. I love that you brought in it's not what you have, it's what you become. And I really resonate with that. Put a stamp on that, patent that, that we as activators of our own personal experience on this planet in the midst of what we've surpassed the 8 billion mark in our humanity. And so it's even more important these days to have a wider landscape in these terms, because as our planet gets more culturally integrated to understand the different attitudes around the word religion, and also where we can find those unity points of the things that we all can move forward together in this united civilization is how I envision the planet at some point. So this word reframing religion, I immediately think of the fruits that your life bears.
Mm-hmm.
And as we activate more in integrity with the values that we say we have, that to me is that personal religion. And this idea of community in religion, which I think is equally important, socializing our spirituality. And as we've seen on a global scale, it's coming away from, or many philosophers and even scientists and even politicians that I have met are attempting to integrate this personal ideal into any vocation or organization or community. And we're in a really exciting time here in this era of transformation and technology catapulting towards future ages. So as technology and that whole realm move forward fast, it's even more important for us to have these conversations about mental maturity, spiritual maturity, community maturity. And I think that's where the art of universal language comes in. And like you said, we're bringing forward the conversations that we've had before. And what you suggested, instead of just redefining it, actually reframing it into what I would say at the fundamental level is altruistic living.
Okay.
How are you looking at your life as a part of the integrated whole? And you mentioned it last time. I think we were talking about the puzzle,
Yeah.
right? And who am I in this grand masterpiece? So it's an exciting topic for sure.
It is, and it's interesting because I mean one of the main things that people have commented and you know they took from the last conversation is okay, yes, we have this personal connection with God and we have this divine fragment in us that has that direct connection, but how do I live my life, you know, in a practical sense? How do I guide, you know, if I'm not, I mean, it's not that you're doing away with institutional religion. I think all institutional religions and, you know, any religion in this planet really has been evolving and then has some revelation into them, and you know it's been improving. It's like anything in life, it's not perfect, but if I'm not going to be basing, you know, my, or maybe I'm not going to be taking the Bible, let's say, for as my compass, maybe that I don't, that doesn't resonate with me. What can I take if you're saying that everything is within me? What can I take, or how can I be, or what is it in me that I can do in order to fulfill that, to really not just have that faith, but live that faith? Like we were saying, put that action into that faith. How do I do that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that's coming up for me is acceptance that
Okay.
everybody else on the planet is having these thoughts exactly that we are. Even
Yeah.
if they may not even know it yet. And I love, and I use it a lot, this adage, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
use it too.
whenever I'm in a conversation with someone who I immediately feel is con friction,
Mm-hmm.
and I love those kind of conversations because it stokes the fire in me to
Yeah.
stay in the conversation, not run away from it, yet to stay in it and find that unification point.
Yeah,
That
that point that it's really going to trigger that connection, right?
Yeah, and we're all different. That's why even, and you're right, we're not downing institutionalized religions. There is certainly a place for socializing spirituality in that way. What we're advocating for is to not allow those institutionalized religions who put rules and boundaries on a personal relationship with God or your
Yeah,
creator or whatever you want to call it. They allow all information to come in, filter it with your own mind adjutants, if people know what those are, your thought adjuster, the fragment of God in you, or whatever you want to call it, the spirit of truth, the Holy Spirit, all of these entities that we have access to, really getting a clear and discerning transfer of information between you and those entities. So, what does this mean? Keeping your body temple clean,
yeah,
the chemicals that are rampant in our food and products, our home products, are in what science is coming out with. This is not just me talking about
yeah,
my philosophy. The science is catching up with all of this chemical action that we're bringing in is having an effect on how
yeah,
we mentally process and being
definitely.
able to receive and discern the information. If we're asking whomever you bow down to, if we're asking for this information, it's very important that we sit and listen, and in any way possible clean out or reduce the distractions that are coming
Mm-hmm.
in. So, sitting alone, going on a walk alone, being quiet and alone. Yeah, equally important, be in conversation. Be in conversation with those who are radically different than you and sticking with it, not running away, and
Yeah,
finding that unity point so that you can both progress and understand who you are so that you can add value to each other. It's just like a really well organized marriage or even a corporate team. All of these parts being equally intrinsically valuable to serve a role together for the future.
yeah, yeah, and definitely, and I mean, as you were speaking, and then you're talking about the community and how you're integrating and interacting with other people. I don't believe he's an atheist. He says he's an atheist, and he's the type of guys that says that anything in the Bible or any religious text is not really. It's just science fiction, right? But he's a very good guy, and he's a person that helps. He helps you when you need it, and he's definitely a good guy, and one day we're talking, and I said, I believe that you are truly more religious than many of the religious people that are, cite scripture, or that the law of God and everything. Because I mean, the way that you act and the values that you live your life by, that you really advocate, and that you do without even thinking that you're going to heaven. There's not, okay, I need to pay my dues in order to enter heaven. I mean, in your case, you don't even believe in that, but you are good. That is religion. That is, and that's the values that you're creating here. Those are the ones that really, when you die, I believe that's what's going to be eternal. So that really blew his mind, and you can see when somebody starts to think, they become quiet, and you see it in their head, and truly believe that you can really, if you live by your values first. Identify your values and live by them. It's not just I apply it well, in this case, and I don't apply them in this case. You have to live by them.
I really have been thinking about that a lot as I study values over the last 20 years and teach values-based
Mm-hmm.
programming. I have really sat with, well, what if there was one value that I would want to base my entire life on that encompasses all the other values? And some people might say love, and that I'm sure is for me as well a very high
Yeah.
valued concept. Yet I keep being pulled back to the word and the value of integrity,
Yes.
because integrity is where it's at in the alignment. So
Yeah.
once you have integrity, which is for me, a very progressive path, and I'm not there, and I don't think I'll ever be
Yeah.
there on
Yeah.
this planet, because my mind externally expressed
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is out of alignment. So I catch myself, and we talked about this in the last one, it's that inner dialogue.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
catch myself sometimes being this animal self, like, oh, I that's not me. That's my
And it's funny, but it gets to a point where you're not judgmental. You kind of step back and you see and you say, "What's wrong? Okay,
yeah,
what's going on?"
yeah.
Kind of that, right?
I'm much more quick in a conversation to catch myself and say it out loud and turn it around right in that moment. Like, and say, "Hey, I wanna reframe that. That's not what I meant." So this integrity point, I think, is a valuable piece to advocate for our listeners to really start observing where they are in their inner world versus their outer world expression, and seeing if that is in alignment. And if it's not, what can we do about it? And a lot, as I also help people become more service oriented, which, as most of you know out there, if you've heard me speak, this is a very important dharmic path, I would say, in
Mm-hmm.
my reality for myself, is to help people align their vocation with their talents and innate values,
Yeah.
so to help serve the greater good. And I think that vocation piece, the deeper I get into meditating and actualizing it for myself and others in my mentorship program, they often shift entirely from a career on an extreme
Yeah.
spectrum to get more of themselves in alignment, not only with their own integrity, yet the power that they can have when they're aligned with the vocation that can serve the greater good.
Yeah.
And that, I think, if we could get that in the public school system when children are like 7 or 8 years old, what a radical change within a few generations that this planet would observe. I think.
I agree with you. I think in order for us to be fulfilled and to have integrity, as you're saying, I think we need to understand not only ourselves, but really our vocation, as you're saying, really our really what makes us tick. And it's not a job. I don't think it's just a job. It's a vocation. I think I like the word that you use. And I mean, I'm just going to touch on a little bit of what I work on what I study, which is the Mayan mathematics and, the patterns and there's a concept, the combination of the tones and the seals. It's called the Oráculo del Destino, the Destiny's Oracle. If you break it down, it's like an equation. And it says, for instance, for me, in my case, it says, I pulse in order to serve creating the universal flow of water. And the universal flow of water is purification. So for me, if I'm serving, that's and that's the key. And everybody has different things. And one is to organize it. There's different keys. But once you understand that equation about you, and a lot of when I show it to people, when they hear it, since it's an archetype, it really resounds in them, and I think that we have something inside of us that's programmed. And once we find that, once we find that vocation, it's really just a matter of letting it unfold in a way.
Hmm. Yeah. God, I love that. So this is interesting because you can serve anywhere in any vocation,
Mm-hmm.
even outside of your vacation and vacation.
Yes,
Vocation,
exactly.
you can serve. You can serve. God, there's so many opportunities to serve, even if it's just shifting your energetic frequency to a more positive, joyful in a room full of negative Nancy's, right? That
Yeah,
is
exactly.
serving.
Yeah,
Yet
totally.
this, when as we speak about reframing religion in the conversation of an ideal vocation, then it ceases to be this word religion, which is so convoluted. It is your life.
Yeah,
Your religion is your life, and how you're
exactly.
expressing this totally unique experience that you're having with your creator, and how that fits into this grand picture. And so when I witness people shifting into a more aligned vocation, their spirit, their energetic frequency,
Yeah, yeah,
everything like gets an
yeah,
upgrade, an up level where the action isn't even important anymore. You're just being this new being. And then the more action that you produce in harmony and in service to the greater good of humanity, it exponentializes it.
yeah. It kind of gets
It's
speed.
so
It
powerful.
accumulates speed, and it gets just, it starts. Yeah, totally, totally. Well, that's really, I mean, a very good way of putting and reframing religion. Altruism is not an accident. It's a divine presence inside of us pushing outward. Here we look at how everyday service becomes a spiritual practice and how stepping beyond ourselves opens the door to transformation for both giver and receiver. So let's talk about altruistic living, and that takes us then to the divine within. So, what can you tell us about this, April Helen?
Yeah. This So I've started shifting my own language from using the word service so often
Mm-hmm.
to this altruistic living. And sometimes people ask me to define that,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. It's not as popular of a word, and it's generally associated with philanthropy, finances, funding. So, as I am here today to advocate for this ideal of altruism being a religion as you're activating it in your life, it's that witnessing of what some people call the fruits of the spirit. I
Okay.
see as integrity of virtuous living your values, and it's at all levels of your life. So your personal connection, taking care of your body temple, like we were saying earlier, keeping your temple
Mm-hmm.
organized and clean so that you can be healthier for longer periods of time on this planet, so you can serve. And you can serve when you're sick. I mean, I get that. You can serve when you're an addict, which is a definite method of overcoming addiction
Yeah.
in some circles. Yet the potency of your service and your altruistic life is diminished when you are sad, suffering, sick,
Your
stressed out.
vibration is low. It's your yeah, you're becoming thicker,
Yeah.
so heavier. Yeah, totally.
So yes, I like that analogy. So the lightness of getting in tune and having your frequency with your creator in alignment so that you can be of greater service in everything that you do. And even, I mean, you hear the story about the monks who meditate while cleaning a toilet. It's
Mm-hmm.
that concept to me. It's whatever you're doing, bringing a higher frequency of joy and love and otherness. It's important to consider yourself so that you can consider others. And you said this giving and receiving, and that actually has been an interesting dialogue, not necessarily a debate, yet when people bring up it's better to give than to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And although I appreciate that concept, I also, the deeper I look at it, I think it's in balance, and it's two sides of the same coin. Because if we don't learn how to ask for help when we need it, that's a valuable lesson to be able to become vulnerable and ask for something outside of yourself, because then that's when you give other people opportunities to be of service. And then when you're working on teams, and as we know, working on teams is one of the most valuable education methods on the
Mm-hmm.
planet, and persevering in teamwork so that these different personalities and characteristic traits can work together to get something progressed and ascended, whatever project that you're working on. And so this giving and receiving, I don't necessarily have the full answer yet of what
But
my philosophy is moving towards, yet I
I'll give
think
you
it's
my take on that in a
I
minute.
would
But
love
yes,
that. Yeah,
I'll
go for
yes,
it.
yeah. I think it's true. I think, and then you brought a lot of good points. So let me start from the end and then go back. But this is interesting, and I think you're right. Everything has to be in balance. I believe that that's the point in life. It's if you can't go to the extremes, you have to be balancing. Everything is our bodies are balancing. We're putting in food, taking in air, we're putting out, waste. So everything has to be in balance, and this is the case as well. And like you're saying, in for you personally, in order to become vulnerable, in order to be able to ask others for help, then you're opening other experiences for your life that are really valuable.
Mm,
And I've had that. Had difficult situations in my life where I had to ask for help, and it served me. And like you were saying, that also serves the other person. You don't know. And this is another thing that I talk a lot about. It's called the dream spell. And it's we're like
mm,
in this dream, we're kind of acting here. We put on these clothes and we play roles, and you're sometimes protagonist, antagonist. And if you do not become even sometimes an antagonist to somebody, they don't learn their lesson. If you don't ask for that help, if you don't let them express that aid or whatever they're lending to you or giving to you, then you're not really keeping or helping them live the fullest of their experience. So that's interesting. I really like that. And one other thing that you mentioned, it was the monks cleaning the toilet. And yes, I
mhm,
think the concept of the dignity in everything. So a
mhm,
lot of people may say, how indignant maybe to clean a toilet or maybe be a janitor. But if you truly give yourself and you really do a good job, it's for you. It's really you're expressing everything out there. So you cannot deny the dignity of even cleaning a toilet to the person that cleans a toilet, because that
yeah,
is who they are. And in that service, it is also beautiful. It's really interesting what you're putting out.
yeah. I I like the word that you use, dignity and service and dignity and integrity. All of these things, values can be found in any vocation.
Exactly.
And I think, as you just said, of if we could get that basic respect and dignity for all humanity because we're intrinsically related, that is another fundamental piece of this reframing of religion, understanding that we're all in it together, and to recognize opportunities of, well, I'm thinking about the story about Jesus, and even if he knew the answer,
Mm-hmm.
like, how do you get to this village? He would ask for directions just to start a beautiful conversation and give that other person the opportunity to serve him in that way. And I do that. I've taken on this mysterious curiosity as an experiment to see where it may lead. And I one of the kind of low hanging fruits, I would say, is to get into the mindset of curiosity and leading life with questions.
Mm-hmm.
Leading everything I do with more open-ended questions, non-judgmental questions, non-leading questions, and giving people permission as I exude acceptance and love and joy and curiosity of what they have, then it starts to really break down those walls, build up the walls of trust, or there are no walls in trust, right? The hug of trust.
Exactly. Exactly. The pillars of trust, let's say.
Yeah. It's really beautiful how and I live in a paradigm that it's a white canvas with just a few dark spots.
Yeah.
And I, with this attitude and this energetic frequency, I magnetize people who either want that or have it and want to up level it. And when I get into conversations with people who don't have that around them and only see the negative and our world is going down and everybody's suffering, I don't live in that world. And I send them compassion and I hold space for them when I'm in that conversation, and I hold their heart because it is a big challenge, and I know how emotionally and mentally and spiritually draining it can be. Yet I don't bring myself down there because I know of the eternal plan. And I know that we're going beyond this world, and this world is evolving. It is
Yeah.
ascending. I mean,
Yeah.
just take caveman time all the way to now, and you can see that we are certainly more evolved.
You can see a clear evolutionary path, and I agree with you. And the way I see time as well, it compounds. So every day is there's more speed to it. It's an accelerator, and I think we're at a crucial state. And like everything, it's a point where in the process there's a lot of polarization, because that's where you see, it's you can see the or the shadows are more visible when the light is brighter. So that's
Mm.
something that we have to think about. But where are you going to stand? Are you going to be in the darkness, or are you going to be in the light? And yes, we can all agree that the situation in the world is chaotic. But through chaos, I mean, what more chaotic than a birth? I mean, I went through three of my children's births. I lived through that experience. And that's funny, because when as a father and as a husband, you go through that experience, and you're just a bystander. You're trying to help, and there's a lot of chaos. Frankly, it's a lot of chaos, and it's really, you're there just recording the chaos. I mean, just being witness to the chaos, really. But out of that chaos, when that ceases, boom, you have life, and you have, the most beautiful thing, and then everything is quiet. It's really interesting, but it is. And I think that everything is at that stage. So I think we're in a very good point. in time. And I think one of the things that we wanted to get across this conversation is, people, folks, if you want to live, what is it to reframe a religion, and how is it to really understand your religion? Is find your values. What is it that you live by? What is it that really moves you? What when you go outside and when you are with your friends, with your family, whatever you're doing in your job, what is it that really fills you and fulfills you
Well,
when you do it, and live by that, not just a mere instant, but really try to hold on to that and expand it.
yeah. That's a really good point. And you and I like practicality and allowing people to receive whatever they need to through these podcasts. And if there is any method that we can bring to this curiosity around reframing religion, an easy one is start learning about values. There are lists of values out here in the ethernets. I have them if you want them. And we have facilitated some programs like the Progress Project and the School of Service, that you look at your values, the ones that come most easily to you. So as you start researching, maybe look at the top 10 that your character is most naturally performing in your life without you having to even think about the integrity of it. And also look at the ones that you admire in other people. And I used to say, think more about the ones that you admire in other people that you want to cultivate in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I am transitioning currently to focus on the ones that you're naturally good at
Mm-hmm.
and get even better at those, because that will build the confidence inside of you, the integrity within you, and the other values that you admire will start coming online naturally. Now,
Definitely
those
do
those
what you
methods,
do what
yeah,
you're good at, and then you get inspired if you're
you
doing it,
do.
and suddenly that inspires you to do the rest.
And then just with that, you're putting out the energy to magnetize more of that. So then you get to start witnessing an admiration that you have in others, and then the other values start coming in naturally. I mean, okay, so then if you really want to be a nerd, I love this guy. I won't say his name, but you may know him. He studies the values, and like one a day he'll process one and hold on to that like a meditation point throughout
Okay.
his day, and see where he, rates himself on, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, it has to be in hindsight. You can think about them in pre-sight, precognition, yet it's the hindsight that you can see where you've up leveled since the
Yeah.
last time you met that value and maybe didn't live up to the standard that you thought you had. So that there's a lot of methods, yet the lowest foundational thing is literally just paying attention,
Exactly.
observing
Being aware.
what
Being
are
aware.
values.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. This is good. So we're gonna be closing this. Shoot, time just flies when we're
I
we're
know it
having so
does.
good conversations. But we're gonna be closing off this segment. Spirituality isn't just cosmic, it's practical. This segment brings it down to earth: sleep, nutrition, movement, and the art of navigating relationships with forgiveness and integrity. These are the everyday foundations that make a higher living possible. So, this is, I think, very practical, very, very down to earth. I mean, we talked about having this connection with God in our first conversation, one-on-one conversation. And now we're bringing this to very common day things. So what can you tell us about this? Because I think in this case, or in this speciality, you're very good at. You have very good points.
Yes, I have been, I'd probably say since 10 years old when my mother remarried an organic farmer. So
Okay.
around 10, I started understanding all of the healthy foods and we were raised on a small rural farm, so a lot of it was off grid. So living to the circadian rhythm and the rhythms of the planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the science is coming out now to validate this. And I would probably say for me, that's one of these, if I want to be in alignment with cosmic reality,
Mm-hmm.
that is a pretty good place to start. And I know in this world of technology and we stay up till midnight watching shows and then wake up to an alarm. So I'm not saying that everybody has to go full throttle of perfection in this, but if there are these little things that we can do
Yeah.
to integrate one little practice and then stack them, and then when we learn more and integrate more. So I would probably say at the foundational level, conscious consumerism, like being very thoughtful about what you're purchasing, not only for the health of your body and your home and your kids, yet the health of the planet,
Yeah.
because consumerism is voting, right? You're purchasing to vote for who you want in charge on the planet, what organizations and
You're giving
corporations
them power in the end.
you
You
are
know,
giving
the
them power.
resources, the money is the power, and it's going to them. Totally.
So I know this isn't like food, sleep, or movement, but it involves all of it. So conscious consumerism, read your labels, read about who that company that you're purchasing from and how they play the game in society for the government, or for the greed hungry corporations. Not to say all corporations are greedy, yet that seems to be a stereotype around them.
Yeah, but it's everything in life, and everything in life. It's you can go to the good, and you can go to the bad, or you can. I mean, it's just a matter of where. I mean, and that's the whole point that you're making is what are
Yes.
their objectives? What is their end game? Is it just to enrich and take over everything, or is it really to be, a good player? Let's say in
Yes.
that put it in that way.
Yeah. So definitely conscious consumerism. I think all of the other medicines like food, sleep, movement are so important to study on a personal level, just like religion. Your art of living skill, art of living lifestyle is unique to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so to study everything that you can about your body temple, if you have the aim for altruistic living, if you're
Okay.
not taking on the aim to be of service to the greater good of humanity, you do you, boo. So I'm speaking to those who have this consciousness around serving what I call the G3, the greatest
Okay.
good for the greatest number of people for the greatest length of time.
I like.
So if I have that aim, then I need to take care of my body temple so that not only I live longer to serve humanity, yet to have a quality longevity while I do it so that my mind can function at high rates when I'm 111 or, like
No,
however long.
totally. It makes total sense. It's like driving a car. If you're not changing the oil, just it's
That
you're not.
is
It's not gonna
such a
take
good
a.
analogy.
It's not gonna take you far. You know.
Yeah. So I think that, even if it's just talking to other people who have a healthy lifestyle, like that can be an easy conversation. Join Facebook groups that talk about healthy living, or get a degree in healthy living and teach other people these methodologies. If you then integrate it with your aim of altruism and serving the planet to ascend it, then you're giving that spiritual nature to this very animalistic skill in life. So you're upgrading not only your own spirituality
Okay.
within this, marrying your aim with your action, which there again roots back to integrity. And I feel like I want to take a pause here. As some of us know, we're on an experimental world, and we this actually goes back to the studies in addiction and the idea of 100% being a perfectionist disease. So now, almost 50 years old, I almost took 10 years off as I'm getting into the half century. I look at I'm good in about the 75, 80 range of doing all that I can on this world. Because when I get into the, 99% or even 100% of perfection, when I'm actualizing something, then that takes on a whole nother negative quality of that can lead to self-criticism
Yeah,
or
yeah.
just like this obsession. So if I've learned for myself, and everybody is going to be different. Everybody is going to be different, just like your food needs, your movement needs, your sleep needs, and whatever therapeutic needs that you need is unique to you. I think that's an important piece to get across. Nobody can tell you what you need, right? Just like religion, nobody can tell you what yours is. And so that exploration and curiosity and continuing the conversation and listening to the discernment within, it has to be a personal effort. If you have the aim to serve, there's that
Hmm.
caveat, right? Because if you don't have the aim to serve, then
This is pointless.
it,
This isn't even,
you do
you're
you.
not even interested in hearing this. Yeah.
Like, in fact, that's interesting because I love you, and I'll be over here with this team that we wanna make a dent, right? We don't just want to make a dent; we want to make a crater.
Like you said, the three G's,
Yeah,
the bigger, the better.
yeah,
Yeah. So, I like what you're saying and, considering that we're not just spirit. And I think that's one of the things that turns down a lot of people, when you have like these preachers and these gurus and these in Mexico we use the term Tuluminati because it's the guys that go to Tulum, and they're just like, these ravers and that, and if I get that they're spiritual, but it's not just being in that state. It's really being in the everyday living, in our everyday lives. So in our everyday living, we also have to deal with our physical existence, our bodies. We have to go and earn money in order to get food, in order to, nourish ourselves. So we have to be part of this cycle of the material, not to be redundant, but we have to be part of the material cycle. So the better we can do it, the better that we can understand it. And you touched on a very important point about consumerism, and it's not just creating money because you want to create money and just to destroy everything, not only the resources, but the human resources as well. I've
yeah,
lived through many situations and seen many situations where, the employers really exploit and it's a very toxic situation because the retribution towards the employer is not honesty. It's not, loyalty. It's everything. It brings out the worst in the people. So it's a never ending game. So we have to understand how we can do this. And you're saying it's very important. We have to nurture ourselves, not only with our food, with our thoughts, the way that where are we leading our thoughts? And it's maybe many times that we're interacting. It's not words. We're interacting in our minds, and what this guy did, and you're all the day. And, energy is energy, even if it's negative. And sometimes I catch myself, in a negative rut, and somebody did something else. Oh, yeah, that son of a bitch. And I catch myself just, stoking the fire, stoking the flame. And it's like, no, 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 that's not the fire that you want to stoke. So stop yourself, consider it. Why is it that? And I I can totally relate to what you say, what's triggering you, what really got you. So it's an exploration about me, about that person. And it usually ends up in, okay, you did okay. And, you feel compassion for the other person. It's in the end, it's okay. It's their process. And if I can help, I can help. But it's very important in this sense to be in this present moment, being in the mundane, everyday fights that or conflicts that you have to resolve about matter, not only the spiritual. And the more that we are, if I mean, the whole conversation comes back to self-consciousness, self-awareness, being in connection. And it's so important. So, I
Yes.
mean, I know I threw a lot of stuff in there,
I
but
love that.
what can you tell us or
Well,
follow
it
up on
it
that?
kind of, points back to some of the other conversations that we have about the 4 laws of observation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just a little reminder, it's going into whatever you're observing with full acceptance, and so that non-judgment piece is so important. Forgiveness. Where are you in your body? Are you relaxed? If you're not, recognize where you're holding the tension and chill out.
Yeah, yeah, and be aware of that, and then you're gonna see, shoot, and like I always say, if you're having a bad day, it's you can turn off that day and just not do anything, you know.
Yeah, if you need to, take a break. And it the honesty piece, and we've used the word radical and ruthless honesty, so that I liken back to integrity. Am I really being honest and integral? And then not interfering. Not even interfering with your own process,
Mm-hmm.
yet specifically not interfering with someone else's. So do not give advice unless asked for. Don't help really unless asked for. So that's a tricky thing because
It
I'm such
is.
a helper and I'm such a solution finder and I can heal the world. Yet I'm okay with not helping people so much now because you even said it. There's all these lessons within that fire, and I'll be here to support you and empower you through your lessons, yet I am not going to enable you from learning it. And how beautiful it is that we get to be around each other and witness and support and love and care, and also allow this very challenging sometimes process of someone learning something. I think that is one of the most challenging pieces, is to not interfere.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not to interfere. And I had a recent situation with a family member in that sense, and it's a situation where you know ev- I think everything in his life was shifting to me. The blame of everything, and it's like, oh, no, no. And the conversation I had with him, and it was one of the few times in this Santiago that I am now. Probably in years back, I'd be right. Just snap of a finger, be talking and criticizing or I mean judging people. But I agree with you. I know I have to hold my tongue, and I know I have to let that people live their experience and not provide service or advice unless asked for. But I think in this case, I had to intervene in a way because sometimes, yes, you have to be the antagonist, and he put me as an antagonist, but I had to tell him his truths of his maturity and of the way the things that he has led his life into this situation, that he's in a even in a tough situation, but has never looked to himself for responsibility. He's never been held accountable himself, and the first person that you have to hold accountable for is yourself. So,
Totally.
I mean, I got to a point where I'm sorry, but and this is it. And if I'm gonna be the bad guy, so be it. I'm gonna be the antagonist, and if that's really gonna shift your, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually shift your focus and teach you a lesson, and then evolve, and not to aggrandize myself. But I think, and that's why I said, and it was at that point and nothing else. I'm not gonna say anything else, but it is hard.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, as I have been a nanny in my past, I don't have my own children, yet that particular point of not interfering is a a slippery slope with children, because you want to protect them and care, and yet you also know that, as we know, challenges are there to help you grow and process and progress. So there is a definite um like a boiling point maybe that
It
you have
is.
to be aware of, to
It
okay,
is.
now I need to intervene.
Yes,
And
yes,
then
yes.
it also brings me to, we said this in the first podcast, recognizing who, say, the 10 most time consuming relationships that you have in your life. Not that they may even be in front of you in person, yet what do the AA people say is who is taking up space in your mind without paying rent?
Hmm.
And so really every 3 to 6 months reevaluate who is the most 10 time consuming relationships in your life, romantic, business, family, and are they on what scale of positive to negative do they enrich your life or cause chaos in your life? And so
Important.
if they're causing chaos, they're detracting from your energy and weighing you down. So where do I need to go in that relationship to heal it,
Hmm.
to forgive, to accept, to understand that we're all intrinsically valuable? So what is it about this person that I can see value in, and go towards that fire to start to heal it? Now it takes two. So if that personality is not ready yet, not willing, then that is where I give myself grace to pause the conversation. Maybe it never comes back around on this planet. Maybe
But
it
you did what you had to do,
you
and that
did
is
your
it.
part.
Yeah, yeah,
And
totally.
we take responsibility for our role in it. And if they come around, great. And it'll start to add value again instead of detract. So I think that is a very practical thing that I hold in my practice of reevaluating relationships.
Which is very important. I think
Yeah.
everybody can take heed of this advice. I don't think
Well, and the
anybody.
more positive ones that you have around you, the energy is
Yeah,
expanding and it is the magnet for more of those kind of relationships to come hang out with you.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
really that's where it's like the purging is, or they turn themselves around and come to the other side of the adding value. So that's a real interesting, like, lifelong practice to get a
yeah,
good
because
hand.
it's not static. It's never
No, it's
static.
not.
There's always the progression in there. So this is interesting because we talked about everything that is current, but now we're going to talk about what is coming. So humanity is moving somewhere towards greater light, greater unity, greater love. In this final segment, we ask, what is your role in this evolution? How do we take the truths that we've learned and translate them into action that elevates our world? So in this, just to point this out, is, the truths, the values that we've learned, that we've throughout experience have developed, the fruits of the spirits that we've grown. How can we take that into action, into a dynamic that can elevate our world, that can contribute to everybody?
Yeah, I feel like all of that which we just said points to this question. And for people that don't know about the vision of the era of light and life, maybe we can
Yes, please.
define
And
a
that's
little
something that I
bit.
wanted to. I wanted to tell you to give us a brief description, and I'll do my
Yeah.
best to create an imagery
Yes.
that can suffice what you're going to be telling us.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder what everybody's unique vision of this is. So, rolling with mine
Yes.
currently, definitely is informed from many of the great world's religions and philosophies, and a large portion of it does come from the Urantia book, where it says that all planets come to the point of a deeper unification of humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and that can look like some things that some humans on the planet currently may find great disgust in. And yet, I invite you to keep your open minds, and maybe even research it more, because the points in life that we find as immediate judgment, that's where I think most people need to dive deeper into the curiosity. Just as that judgment trigger comes up,
Mm-hmm.
run towards that fire to figure out what it is that you're judging. So when it comes to the vision of light and life, a one world civilization, a one world unifying government administration, which doesn't reduce the importance of nations, yet integrates, just like teamwork, the value of people working together, unifying their unique skills to move forward on a project. So if we take that and scale it towards the whole of humanity, then we're inviting and giving permission to utilizing each of our intrinsically valuable personalities to move the planet into a more unified civilization. So when I also think of the era of light and life in terms of religiosity, and the more that we can as humanity understand religion as a unique personal experience and expression with our creator, then that will then in turn inform the global unification of government and industry, because then that then roots back to the value of values and integrity and living up as a personal triumph and bringing that into government and policy and the education system and the healthcare reform and all of these different arenas of life unifying as art of living. It's really just scaling your personal skills into this global unification of the part and the whole. It really roots back to that, and who we are moving forward as a family, not only on this planet, yet looking beyond the planet and noticing that we're a part of this infinite eternality. I mean, that if
I
we
like
could get
those words, infinite eternality. It's
yeah, I
like
think that I
beyond.
think that but I think that would really help the elemental, like foundational level of who we are as a species to get out of our own way and work together towards a global greater peace. And, I was reading the other day about, as you may know, I'm very interested in getting into the United Nations Reformation right now. I'm getting ready to go to India. And I've been interested in the UN since I was a little girl and
I
wondering
was.
where
Were you in the Mall UN when you were a kid?
I was in several things like that. I wasn't specifically in that, but definitely into
On
like
my
even
high
high
school. On my high
school.
school.
Yeah.
That was my thing. But
Yeah.
continue, please. Go
Well,
ahead. Go ahead.
and on that note, when I work with people with vocation shifting towards greater humanity of service and altruistic living, that I am a great advocate for getting involved in local politics or global politics, whatever it is, because that's really and industry. And when those two, those are global issues, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If we can get to that level of bringing those higher consciousness values into those arenas, and they are, I'm noticing more people with spirituality and religious backgrounds getting into local government and making a difference, planting seeds, not
Definitely.
bringing their maybe in private conversations will they get into the religious and spiritual conversation, yet just them being in integrity with their values, making
Exactly. And bringing
local
those values, that's their religion. I mean, it's
right.
right there. Yeah. Definitely.
So definitely I am rooting for you to take an office anywhere, and even just having these conversations of not shying away from politics. You
It's funny
know,
that you. It's
N-
funny that you were saying that. Because not that it's crossed my mind. Well, when I was younger, I might have thought of maybe diplomacy. That's because that's why I wanted the UN. But I think that's for another conversation. But
yeah,
yeah, let's hold
I
that
hear
thought.
what you're going with. Like too.
we're going to talk about politics, not politics, but government and everything that's go with it. But that, you just gave me an idea. But
Yeah.
anyways, I mean, you were talking about a lot of stuff, and I took a lot of notes as you were describing this era of light and life. And just, I mean, first of all, I want to point out that as you were speaking, I want our audience to really vision that this is not going to happen in the short term. It's not going to happen in a couple of years. I mean, and although we're going through a stage of a lot of transformation and a lot of enlightening, and there's darkness everywhere and whatnot, it takes a lot of time. It takes, we have to be
Oh,
really more evolved, really. I mean,
yeah.
because you were saying something that is really, as I was hearing you, you were integrating industry, you were integrating education. I mean, you were integrating, and it's not just about religion, it's not just about government. And I mean, you integrated everything, and everything has to be integrated. So
It
just
totally
think
does.
about it, right? We're
Yeah.
not integrated right now.
Well,
So,
and that's a really good point for you to bring up of the patience that it
yeah,
takes in
patience.
persevering and n allowing yourself to really look at where we've come to see how far we can go, and
Yeah.
to not be just because you're alive only for 80 years on this planet, don't take this time as what's happening, right?
You're
Really,
part of the whole story, exactly.
that's the huge you have to look at all 3 stages to see and comfort, like, it gives me comfort. Like, "Okay, I'm just here right now, and how exciting it is to be here, and let's do something about it."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I one of the things that you also pointed out, and I really wanted to mention, and because this is one of the big conflicts right now, and you were saying, oh, right now there's the big debate is about nationalism, and you said the words that you said, it's to integrate nations. It's not to strip them of their identity, but it's really, I think every nation contributes when it's really contributing, not just pouring out. When a nation contributes and each nation contributes their best, we can be a global community. It's not overpowering one over the other. It's not, and that's why we were talking about the balance, and that's why I like some of the politicians that bring balance, that are not just, oh, everything's nice and dandy, and we'll just color this, and we'll. No, we have to take action, because I've learned in my life, when I take action on me, when I'm accountable for myself, when I really, cut the bullshit with myself, is really when I grow. And really, we need people that push us in that sense. So even if it hurts, even if it's not the most beautiful thing to do, you're sacrificing, and you're doing what it has to be done today in order to have the better future tomorrow. So I believe in that, and I like that you mentioned this, to integrate nations, because this is what we're declaring, or what we're stating. It's not stripping their identity. It's really building on that cultural, social, and moral integrities that these nations can bring to the rest of the
Yes.
world.
Yes. Sharing resources, holding each other accountable, holding nations accountable, holding the leaders of their nations accountable. They're this whole I mean, there are some good things about lobbyists, yet the majority is, and under my understanding, is to get away with stuff. And
Yeah,
like
it's
the
pushing. It's
buy
you're pushing. We were talking about how you're giving, to maybe nefarious companies the money, which is power, which ends up in these places, which in turns makes your policies, and in turn affects your life. So, as
conscious
we see,
consumerism.
and it's everything is integrated. I mean, you can't run away from it.
Integrated.
You can't assume or think that if you hit over here, it's not going to slap you over here. It is.
And good for it.
Yeah,
Because then
exactly.
it'll just make us solution find more and teamwork more and yeah.
Yeah, and you were saying, I mean, by the time this podcast airs, I mean, I'm going to make this comment. I mean, we're recording this, and just a couple of days ago, last Saturday, the 15th of November, there was a huge uprising in Mexico City because of this. Because people are, one of the reasons I'm out of Mexico is because the insecurity. I'm a consequence of a lot of what Generation C is, and I applaud that, because they're holding the politicians accountable. And what I like about them is that it's not left or right; it's accountability. And shoot, and I look at we're Generation X. It's like, shoot, we're one letter short to being that. But I think this is, although it is a fight, I don't think it's their fight. But I'll be on the sidelines, stoking or soaking the fire with a bellow of my experience and all my passion, so that anybody with just causes can succeed in overcoming and overpowering these nefarious governments and these nefarious situations that we're living in.
Yeah.
So that's maybe my political stance. If later on, if we
I
ever do
love that.
something.
I would love to have a greater conversation around the ideals of the era of light and life and what
Hmm.
we can do now. And all the things that we've been saying today and in many of your podcasts are practical things that we can bring this into our existence, even if it's just planting the seeds of and knowing that we're going to get there and holding that optimism. I think shifting from a pessimistic to optimistic view is yet another one of those art of living skills
Hmm.
that can add to the quality, vitality of your existence.
I'm always happy that when we have these conversations, I mean, there's so many things that come out and that expand into different details of what we're talking about. And I agree with you. I think we have to do another show and go deeper into these topics, because it's people like how a religious, because this is the whole topic that we're talking about, reframing religion, how religious living is really practical. It's not just going and praying. It's part, praying is part, yes, but action is also part. So as we unraveled here, or we discussed here, it's really very practical. It's really based on your values, on what you do in everyday life, how, the truth, beauty, and goodness that you give to others. So once we see that things can be practical, and that our existence, our inactions, and our faith really are our unique religion, then we can really eventually, like you're saying, we can form the community. We really have altruistic living, and move. Maybe if we're not going to be in our lifetime to get to the era of light of life, but maybe our names are going to be in the history of this planet, and saying, okay, this is the little grain of sand that they contributed with, and that is, I think,
Big.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge. Imagine, right?
Yes.
So anyways, we're out of time, unfortunately. And
Time flies when you're having fun.
time
It's
flies
always
when you're
fun.
having fun. So any closing remarks, anything you want to say before we leave?
Well, if it's okay, I would like to give a little plug to, or
Yes,
maybe a
please.
shout out to all those who have experienced what we're talking about and are shifting from a self-centered to an other-centered lifestyle and altruistic living, and socializing your personal relationship with God, being in community with others who are actualizing, doing something for humanity
Hmm.
with their spiritual alignment. And so next summer, if you're curious about all things Urantia book, even for new people, we are having our international conference in California. And
Nice.
the theme is emergence, personal to planetary. And so
Okay.
each of the days will move from your personal relationship with the cosmos and your creator to how it then blooms in community. And then our final day is around the era of light and life, and all of the actions, the secondary works projects is what we call pe- things, projects, books, retreat centers, facilitators, content creators like you, Santiago, and Center for Unity, and all of these secondary works that have emerged from students diving into the Urantia book or whatever spiritual book or philosophy, or
It's
even
all
if you're
inclusive, non-exclusive.
right, and even if you're agnostic that holds high values and you're in with our
Everybody's
cosmic
welcome.
family and you're doing something. So if you need more motivation, inspiration, or just want to come socialize your spirituality in California, we welcome you.
And actually, do you have a like a save the date? Do you have something that so
We
we can
do.
share?
It's a July 12th through 16th, and I'll get something for you to
We'll put
on
it
your
there. So be sure, guys, to check the information so you can find out more. And I mean, and we're gonna put everything from April on, so
Yeah,
you're gonna be
of
able to
course.
be in
I have
contact.
plenty of service opportunities if you
Yes,
want to come join my
yes,
team.
that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah,
Well, April Helen, thank you. It's
my
been a
pleasure.
pleasure as always. And thank each and every one of you. It's really inspiring to have these conversations and to include you, even if you're not present physically with us. But we know that you're in spirit, and it really uplifts us when you participate. So just remember if you to subscribe. Remember to set the reminder so you know we're when we're going to come up. And if you like this, share, talk to somebody. Maybe they'll find something that really resonates in their hearts. And just remember, I'm Santiago Kneeland. This is the Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. Take care and carpe diem. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.